So picture this. You're standing in the grocery aisle, right? Just staring at 2 boxes of tea.
Yeah, a very familiar scenario for most of us.
Exactly. And one box costs about $3, and the other one costs like $8. But the $8 box has this bright green, very official looking organic sticker stamped right across the front.
And in that split second, you probably reach for the organic one.
Right. Because you just assume, I just bought the superior, more environmentally friendly, and objectively better tasting leaf. I mean, we all do it.
We do. It's the ultimate illusion of the modern supermarket, really.
An illusion.
Yeah, because we conflate a certification badge with a guarantee of quality, when in reality, well, that badge only represents a very specific bureaucratic checklist.
Which is exactly why we are tearing into this topic today. For you listening to this audio, our mission is to cut through all that grocery aisle confusion. We've got a massive stack of briefing documents in front of us today.
A truly massive stack.
Yeah, we are talking deep agricultural analyses, environmental impact studies, sensory profiling reports, and global consumer trend data, all focusing entirely on the global tea industry.
Right. We are putting the organic versus conventional tea debate under the microscope.
Because the journey of that leaf, from the dirt to your mug, is infinitely more complex than a marketing label implies. So to truly understand what you're drinking, we have to look at the mechanics of the farm itself.
Absolutely. The physical soil is really the only logical starting point here. I mean, the divergence between conventional, which we often just call regular tea, and organic tea, it begins at the molecular level right in the ground.
Okay, let's break down the conventional method first, because if I'm reading our sources right, this is the system that produces the vast majority of the tea consumed globally.
Yes, the overwhelming majority.
And the briefing indicates that regular tea farming is essentially built on a foundation of maximizing yield through synthetic inputs. But I really want to understand the actual mechanism there. Like, how does that make it a factory model?
Well, think about how a plant grows, right? It needs nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
The basics, yeah.
Right. In a conventional model, farmers apply synthetic fertilizers that deliver these nutrients in highly concentrated, immediately bioavailable forms.
Okay.
It's essentially an IV drip of pure liquid energy directly to the root system.
Wow, an IV drip.
Exactly. The tea bush, it doesn't have to expend energy searching for nutrients in the soil. It just absorbs the synthetic feed and instantly pushes all its energy into massive, rapid leaf growth.
Okay, so let me make sure I've got this. Conventional farming is like feeding the plant an IV drip of pure sugar for instant, explosive growth.
That's a good way to put it, yes.
While organic farming is more like feeding the soil a complex, fibrous diet that the plant has to slowly digest over time.
That is a highly accurate mechanical comparison. Because the conventional plant is receiving that IV drip, it grows much faster. And because it grows faster, it can be harvested or plucked, in tea terms, much more frequently.
And more plucking means more tea.
Right. This frequent plucking is the engine of efficiency. It drives the cost of production way down, which is, frankly, the sole reason you can buy a box of tea for $3 anywhere in the world.
Wait, but if the plant is just relying on an IV drip, wouldn't that make its root system incredibly shallow and weak? I mean, it doesn't have to work for anything.
That's exactly what happens. The root system does become shallower, and a plant with shallow roots is inherently more vulnerable to pests and diseases.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, this is where the second pillar of conventional farming comes in, synthetic pesticides and fungicides. Because the hyperstimulated plant is somewhat fragile, the farmer must protect their massive yield with chemical shields.
So the system requires constant active management of both the inputs and the defenses.
Precisely.
Okay, so contrast that with the organic model. If organic farmers aren't allowed to use that chemical IV drip or those synthetic shields, how do they even keep the plants alive, let alone profitable?
It's a huge challenge.
Because the label makes it sound like they just let nature take its course, like a heritage garden. But our briefing documents suggest it's actually a massive logistical headache.
Calling it a headache is an understatement, honestly. To earn that organic certification, a farm undergoes rigorous multi-year audits. They cannot just act naturally.
Right.
If they want to introduce nitrogen to the soil without synthetic fertilizer, they have to rely on biological mechanisms. So they plant specific leguminous cover crops between the tea bushes.
Cover crops. Like what?
like certain types of beans or clovers,
Uh-huh.
plants that actually pull nitrogen from the atmosphere and fix it into the soil through a symbiotic relationship with bacteria.
Wait, really? So they are farming bacteria in other plants just to feed the tea bushes?
Exactly. They are managing an entire soil microbiome. They apply massive amounts of compost, which breaks down very slowly.
Right, the fibrous diet.
Yes. So the pea plant, lacking that instant nutrient drip, is forced to drive its roots much deeper into the earth to find sustenance. It grows slower, the yield is much lower, and the labor required to manage the cover crops and create the compost is exponentially higher.
Okay, well, if the conventional model is just this high-yield chemical factory, why wouldn't we just ban it?
hmm
I mean, it sounds like it relies entirely on artificial crutches, whereas the organic method is actually building long-term soil infrastructure.
I see that perspective.
Shouldn't we just demand all tea be organic?
Well, you could theoretically mandate that, but you would eliminate over 80% of the world's tea supply overnight.
80%, wow.
Easily. The sheer volume of tea demanded by the global population simply cannot currently be met by organic yields alone. The conventional factory model is the only reason tea is a democratized, universally accessible beverage, rather than like an ultra-luxury good.
So it's about accessibility.
Yeah, we have to balance ecological idealism with global food security and real-world supply chain realities.
Which actually brings up a massive transition point in our sources. Because if we are balancing the scale of production against the health of the dirt, we have to look at the broader environmental ripple effects.
Naturally, yeah.
How does this biological difference in the root system actually impact the ecosystem surrounding the farm?
Well, the structural difference in how the soil is managed dictates the local biodiversity because organic farms utilize cover crops, compost, and, they avoid synthetic pesticides. They inherently create habitats.
So they invite nature in, basically.
Right. The deep-rooted system fosters complex microbial life in the soil, which attracts beneficial insects. And those insects, in turn, attract diverse bird populations. The farm essentially operates as an integrated ecological network rather than a sterile production floor.
So the organic farm is actively increasing local biodiversity. Okay, but let me challenge the assumption that conventional farms are just these barren, toxic wastelands.
Please do, because that's a common myth.
Yeah, I'm looking at the sustainability data for major conventional tea estates here, and they are pouring millions of dollars into soil conservation and integrated pest management. They definitely aren't ignoring the environment.
No, and it would be financial suicide to ignore it. The conventional industry relies entirely on the long-term viability of massive tracts of land.
Right, if you ruin the land, you have no business.
Exactly. If a conventional farm strip mines its soil of all nutrients and destroys the local water table with chemical runoff, the factory shuts down.
Makes sense.
So progressive conventional producers use what's called precision agriculture. They use drones and soil sensors to apply the absolute minimum amount of synthetic fertilizer required.
Oh, wow, drones.
Yeah, it's highly technical. They localize the spray to specific struggling plants rather than just blanket spraying an entire estate.
Okay, so they are optimizing the chemical use to preserve their own capital. That makes brutal economic sense.
It-
But as I'm tracing the environmental footprint in our sources here, there is a gaping hole in this farm-level debate. I mean, we are obsessing over how the leaf is grown, but completely ignoring how it gets to the grocery store.
This is the crucial part. The life cycle emissions of the supply chain frequently dwarf the agricultural emissions.
Let's talk about that because this blew my mind when I read it. If I buy an artisan certified organic tea, heavily focused on soil biodiversity,
Correct.
but it is individually wrapped in a non-recyclable plastic sachet, placed inside a heavy foil-lined cardboard box, loaded onto a fossil fuel burning cargo ship in Assam, transferred to a diesel truck, and driven to my local supermarket.
Right.
Does the organic halo effect just vanish?
From a holistic carbon footprint perspective, yes, the environmental benefit is severely compromised, if not entirely negated.
That is wild.
The transport and packaging phases are the hidden variables of sustainability. Consider the alternative. A conventional tea, grown with synthetic fertilizers but processed in bulk, shipped in massive, lightweight, zero-waste containers, and packaged locally in compostable paper.
Wait, really?
Yes, that regular tea might actually possess a significantly lower overall carbon footprint than a heavily packaged organic specialty tea flown halfway across the globe.
That completely shatters the illusion of the green label for me. It forces you to realize that holistic sustainability cannot be measured solely at the farm gate. Like the farm is literally just phase one.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
requires the consumer to interrogate the entire life cycle of the product. The term environmentally friendly is functionally meaningless unless you specify what you're prioritizing.
Are you prioritizing local dirt or global emissions?
Precisely. Are you prioritizing local soil biodiversity at the origin point or global greenhouse gas emissions during transport? Because they are two entirely different metrics and they rarely align perfectly in a single product.
Okay, so if the environmental impact is a giant, complicated gray area, let's pivot to something incredibly direct. Taste.
The most important part for a lot of people.
Right. At the end of the day, you are boiling water and drinking this leaf. Does the stressed out, deep-rooted organic plant inherently brew a better tasting cup of tea than the IV drip conventional plant?
The short answer is no.
No, just flat out no.
Just no. The certification status of the soil management program does not dictate the sensory profile of the resulting beverage.
Okay, that feels deeply counterintuitive. If an organic plant is fighting for survival, digging deep roots, and interacting with this complex microbiome you mentioned, shouldn't that produce more complex flavors in the leaf?
Well, it absolutely can.
Yeah.
The chemical stress response of a plant where it produces certain polyphenols and volatile compounds to defend itself against pests that can create really unique flavor profiles.
Right.
But you were ignoring the single most critical variable in tea production: human expertise.
Hmm.
The raw leaf is only potential. The manufacturing process dictates the reality.
Ah, okay. Right. Our sources spend a massive amount of time on terroir, altitude, the fog cover, the temperature swings, and the processing. Let's dig into the processing mechanics because I think a lot of people just assume tea is just a dried leaf.
It's so much more than that. The moment a tea leaf is plucked, it begins to degrade. The farmer must immediately manage a highly sensitive chemical reaction.
Oh, okay.
They wither the leaf to reduce moisture, they roll it to break the cellular walls and release natural enzymes, and then they allow those enzymes to interact with oxygen, a process called oxidation.
Which is what determines whether it becomes a green tea, an oolong, or a black tea. Right.
Precisely. It's the exact same plant, entirely different processing. A farmer must stop that oxidation process at the exact right moment by applying heat, which is called firing.
Sounds stressful.
Highly. If a farmer misjudges the moisture content during the wither, or over-oxidizes the leaf by even 30 minutes, or applies too much heat during firing, the tea will taste flat, or bitter, or burnt.
Wow. Which leads to the ultimate irony in our data. It is entirely possible that a master conventional farmer, someone who relies on synthetic fertilizers, but possesses 40 years of intergenerational knowledge about the precise atmospheric conditions required to wither and roll a leaf, that farmer will produce a dramatically superior, more complex, better-tasting tea than a mediocre organic farmer who passed a soil audit but lacks the technical skill to manage oxidation.
Absolutely. The master conventional farmer is an artisan operating with industrial tools. The mediocre organic farmer is a bureaucrat operating with natural tools.
That's a great way to put it.
A true tea connoisseur prioritizes the origin, the terroir, and the specific craftsmanship of the estate long before they ever look for an organic certification badge. Quality is an output of extreme technical precision. It's not just a byproduct of avoiding chemicals.
That flips the entire grocery store dynamic on its head. I mean, if the green label doesn't guarantee a smaller overall carbon footprint due to supply chain variables, and it definitely doesn't guarantee a better tasting cup of tea due to the massive variable of human processing skill, what exactly is a consumer paying an $8 premium for?
They are paying for an audited philosophy.
An audited philosophy.
Yes, the premium price covers the immense cost of compliance. The inspectors, the paperwork, the naturally lower yields, and the highly labor-intensive cover cropping. Consumers who willingly pay that premium are purchasing transparency.
Okay, that makes sense.
They want a verified connection to a specific type of agricultural stewardship. It aligns with a lifestyle that prioritizes the absolute absence of synthetic chemicals in the immediate soil environment.
So they are buying peace of mind, which honestly is a completely valid consumer choice.
It is highly valid. But we must also validate the consumer who purchases the $3 box of conventional tea. They are not simply settling for an inferior product. They are participating in a highly sophisticated, standardized, global supply chain.
Yeah, I noticed in the consumer trend reports that brand loyalty in the conventional tea market is staggering. Like, people will drink the exact same brand of black tea for 50 years.
Oh, without fail.
How is the conventional industry achieving that level of consistency when agriculture is inherently unpredictable?
Through masterful blending. A major conventional tea brand does not rely on a single farm. They employ master blenders who taste hundreds of different batches from conventional estates across Kenya, India, Sri Lanka,
Wow.
and they mix these different harvests together to achieve an identical flavor profile year after year, completely regardless of droughts or heavy monsoons in any single region.
So the conventional product offers this invulnerable consistency. You know exactly what that $3 box is going to taste like every single morning.
Exactly. And that consistency is a marvel of food science and logistics.
Yeah.
But, there is another layer to the economic reality here that often gets completely ignored.
Oh, what's that?
In many parts of the world, smallholder tea farmers actually operate using organic principles by default.
Wait, let me guess. Because synthetic fertilizers and chemical pesticides are too expensive for them to buy.
Exactly. They rely on compost and natural farming because it is literally their only economic option. However, they cannot afford the thousands of dollars required to hire international auditors to certify their farm as organic.
Oh, wow.
So their tea enters the global market categorized as regular or conventional tea, even though the agricultural practices align closely with strict organic standards.
That is fascinating. So you might be buying a cheap box of regular tea that is functionally organic simply because the farmer couldn't afford the luxury of the green sticker.
The sticker is a privilege of the global north, superimposed on the agricultural realities of the global south. It is exactly why you cannot navigate the tea aisle on autopilot.
Yeah, no kidding.
The industry is evolving rapidly, though. Both conventional and organic producers are being forced to offer greater transparency regarding their supply chains and their labor practices.
So the burden of responsibility ultimately falls right back on the person holding the box.
It really does.
You have to look past the marketing. You have to decide if your priority is the soil microbiome at the origin, the carbon footprint of the packaging, the artisanal processing skill of the farmer, or, honestly, simply the economic reality of your own grocery budget.
And the data clearly shows there is no universal best choice. A highly efficient, conventional black tea that provides an affordable, consistent morning ritual is just as valid a component of a balanced lifestyle as a meticulously sourced, certified organic green tea.
Right.
Both deliver hydration, antioxidants, and, a necessary moment of pause in your day.
It is incredible how much geopolitical and scientific complexity is steeped into a single mug of hot water. I mean, we started this dive looking at the fundamental mechanics of the dirt, the IV drip of conventional farming, versus the complex biological diet of organic soil management.
The roots.
Yeah. We traced how those methods impact the local ecosystem and then realized how quickly the carbon footprint gets complicated once you put that leaf on a cargo ship.
Oh.
And maybe most importantly, we decoupled the concept of a certification label from the actual sensory quality of the tea,
We did.
proving that human expertise during the processing phase is the true architect of flavor.
We have basically mapped the entire architecture of the industry today. But as we synthesize these briefing documents, there is one final variable looming over both the organic and the conventional models.
Okay.
A variable that threatens to rewrite the rules for everyone.
Wait, the climate.
The climate. We established earlier that terroir, the precise local climate, the predictable rainfall, the specific temperature swings, is the absolute foundation of tea quality.
Right. It dictates the chemical composition of the leaf before the farmer ever even touches it.
Exactly. So if the global climate is shifting, the baseline chemistry of the world's tea supply is shifting right along with it.
Oh, wow.
The delicate flavor profiles of our most traditional teas are highly vulnerable. If a region that historically experiences slow, cool springs suddenly faces erratic heat waves, the tea plant will grow too quickly.
And that changes the flavor.
It entirely alters its polyphenol development, completely changing the flavor of the final cup.
Which leaves us with a massive, unresolved question for the future of this industry. As these environmental shifts accelerate, producing heavier droughts and, unpredictable monsoons, which agricultural model will actually survive?
Exactly. Will the deep-rooted, ecologically diverse infrastructure of organic farming provide the natural resilience required to weather these climate shocks?
Or will the immense scale, chemical adaptability, and sheer financial resources of the conventional factory model be the only thing capable of engineering solutions fast enough to keep tea in our pantries?
It's the defining question for the next century of tea.
That is a staggering thought to end on. The battle between the heritage garden and the high yield factory isn't just about what goes on the label today, it's about which system can survive tomorrow. Well, thank you for walking through this massive stack of research with me today.
It is a pleasure.
And for you listening, the next time you wander into the kitchen and put the kettle on, take a good look at the box you pull from the shelf. Think about the soil, the cargo ship, and the master blender who designed that specific flavor. We hope you enjoy your cup just a little bit more, knowing the incredible journey of the leaf.